A controller in the move is going to be always the first thing we have to look at whenever we're thinking about entering trades, exiting trades, any types of targets we're looking at. Your controller is going to dictate your exits and your entries. Now that might sound a little odd because you'd say, well, how can a controller from the top layer control your exit on a trade? And we'll get into that, but it really does. And yeah, we're just going to simply get into that. I'm going to start just by removing like a lot of these levels. We'll keep the ones on the bottom because I think they do have some relevance in the move. But really the controller of this entire move is going to be your highest time frame. So if you were to go to a monthly, we don't really use monthlies in crypto right now. You could use a monthly if you wanted down here, something like this. But whenever you're using a monthly, it's going to end up being, so like I'll just mark this black, for example. Sure, monthly level. If I was to go to this, well, we're not going to use monthlies in general anyways, but you're typically going to have weekly information there anyways. And it's the same thing with combo levels. Like if this was a weekly level here, you're going to find probably a daily backside, origin, some type of combination of levels right here. So it's actually a little higher than this monthly. But then again, at the same time, if you were to use this monthly, you could also use this daily right here. And you're typically never going to bounce perfectly off of a monthly. Like it's just too high of a time frame. You can deep dive. If, for example, you were to hit 11,658 or 655 or a few dollars within this perfectly, then I would use it, but it would be extremely rare. And I would never, ever place a trade there if it happened to hit, just speaking regarding the highest time frame. If this happened to hit perfectly and moved up, I would open the idea that a monthly may start being used in crypto. The reason it's not used is we just don't have enough time on the charts yet to use a monthly. Crypto's only been around for 10 years. That's only a certain amount of monthly candles. Every single month that goes by is 12 candles. It would be the equivalent of trying to use, so how many candles are there? So you're talking about 12 per month or per year. And then you're talking about, let's just call it 10 years. So you're talking about 120 candles. It would be the equivalent of saying the 4-hour level is the only level that can ever get hit as a maximum if you had 120 4-hour candles. That adds up pretty quick. And you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this little chunk here is 10 candles. So that would be 20, 30, 40, 50-ish. So double that. So maybe around here would be somewhere in here would be that same equivalent. So saying this is the highest time frame that can only ever get hit is a little, it's too immature for that in terms of how long it's been here on the charts. So we would never really use a monthly. If for some reason it did hit a monthly, I would then and bounced perfectly from this point forward. Now that we've had 10 years of Bitcoin, I would say, oh, okay, maybe we can end up making a monthly on the top. Like the example would be like, okay, you've come out here and we're somewhere out here now, right? You come here, you hit this, and then like, oh, maybe in a few years we can come up here and we can create maybe like a monthly origin so that in 3 more years, maybe we have some kind of target here that we can ladder off and make a monthly trend. And this would lead to like a 20-year plan, right? This would be a very large time frame out, and to justify taking a trade based on that would just be a little too much. So we never use the monthly, not yet anyways. Maybe as Bitcoin gets a little older we can, but for now I wouldn't use it. If it hits it perfectly, I would open my mind to the idea that maybe we can now hit a monthly on the top side somewhere. Like, okay, cool. So in a few years, maybe there'll be a monthly hit. Yeah, fine. Really not my concern with Bitcoin right now. I'll cross that bridge when we get there. But what we can use right now is the weekly. So going into timeframes and seeing whatever the highest time frame is hit is going to be the controller of the move. So that's how we can identify a controller to help us with entries and exits as a first step. So the controller is always going to be the highest time frame. The highest time frame will give you everything you need in that trade. For example, we had this origin back here, and this was the controller of the move for a long time. You can see it controlled Bitcoin. It hit here, it bounced, it laddered, it came here, it broke this float, right? Like these floating levels that it started to create off of here that brought it to its all-time high, right? Like it creates these floating levels, brings it to its all-time high, and there's other trend work that had happened here, interior trends that broke, and stuff in the daily that was back from, I believe it was here. There was some kind of, I'm going to float it in between here because I know it hit that perfectly, or maybe it was, I know if I go to the daily, I'll find it, but I believe it was something like this. The daily level right here. And then there ends up being another daily level somewhere in there. I'm just going based off memory, so hang in there with me for a minute. And then it's another daily level right here. And then you end up getting, oopsies, right here. That's on daily level to daily. And zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so you have daily to daily, which I believe this one didn't do anything. I think it adapts in the move as time went on, because you made an interior architecture piece and then it turned into the weekly. And anyways, after you do all the work, it ends up right here, which gives you kind of your perfect trades. Or it might have even been here. I'd have to go and walk through the trade, but it was one of these two. No, it was this one for sure. I'm pretty sure of it. You walk through the trade, and then this is what happens. It goes to here, and it breaks that move, and it was the controller to the move, and et cetera, et cetera. But the controller of the move, like you can see the weekly here, it was always the controller of the move. It started to create floats. This broke that, which told you it's indicating that this float is breaking. It's going to move down. It simply moved off of a daily here, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was a daily origin. It created it. It laddered the next daily, which was here. So it had already created the same kind of thing where you have a weekly and your +1, -1 now working into your controllers ends up doing the same thing. You have a daily that's hit. You create another daily. I'm going to use a replayer tool for this part here. You have your daily that's hit. You end up creating that daily there, right? You got a daily origin, daily hold. Then you create a 4-hour hold level, which is here, right? Or, eventually it gets up to here as a 4-hour. The 4-hour rejects, and then, you're going to have 4-hour rejects here. And then, you're going to move down in time frames, and you're going to have, your hourly starting to reject. And it's going to break down the move. Like the weekly is the controller, and then it builds you to your daily. So like when you have the controller of the move, it can show you what time frame, because you're always going to take your controller and you're going to say it's either going to create one of two scenarios, right? The first scenario here is it's going to mirror, and it's going to say, okay, weekly to weekly. And you're going to create a mirroring scenario where you're going to look for +1, -1. And that's going to say, okay, we have a weekly that was hit here, right? So then you're going to go for a weekly up here. Oops, let's make that straight. A weekly up here. So I guess to make it proper here, we would go on the top side of it. So if you hit a weekly down here, if you hit the weekly on the top, the controller is telling you that you're going to go into a mirroring situation, which is typically trend work. And you're going to have trends like that you end up losing a trend because you've mirrored into it. And we've all seen that, Pandora's box 2.0 and, mirroring and all that stuff. But the controller will tell you, like, if you hit the same level on the top, that's when your Pandora's box opens. Until that moment, this is not valid. There is no Pandora's box. There is no mirroring. Like, this is just not there. That's scenario one. Scenario two is you have a weekly, and then you have your +1, -1. This is really not written very well, but I think you guys understand. +1 here, -1 here. So you have your two scenarios where you hit your weekly, or you have your weekly information, and then your +1, -1 holds you down, and then you lose that, and then typically you'll come back up to that point at some time, and you +1, -1 off that, and then this weekly here would also be down here somewhere, and then you have your weekly here that stabilizes off this. So then you go to some weekly information, you stabilize, and then you start that chain all over again, and then it creates that kind of Pandora's box between those two levels, right? So the controller, just to kind of wrap that all up, the controller is the highest time frame, which allows us to see what targets will be hit. So our controller in the move is always going to be, again, highest time frame. You can see it here. You can see it's the highest time frame here once you break out of that, because you stabilize the move on the bottom, right? You've got your information down here that you stabilize against, the weekly origin level here, goes below it, comes back above it, etc. All very straightforward when you just start marking the levels. You can see you lose this weekly, you go to that, it creates a Pandora's box between these two. This actually never targets the weekly, just like what we said in our last example. If you lose this weekly and create a new weekly down here, you're either going to Pandora's box, which gives you a game of trends, right? It gives you a game of trends like this, right? Or even maybe interior like this, or but that's Pandora's box. If you +1, -1, you're never going to get to that weekly, and you're going to drop the next range, right? You're just going to drop to the next part of the move. And I think at this point, it might have been a daily. I don't remember what was here, but I think it was a daily actually back in here. I think there was like a daily right here, if memory serves me right. Not important for right now, but I think that's what it was. So then, actually, we can go check. I believe it was a daily right here, right? Like a daily untested, I think it was, because this was tested here, and I think the next untested daily was right here. I think this was never tested. It got very close, but I think this was the level that was hit, if memory serves me correctly. It was a little lower than that. So, okay, so maybe it was like an origin on the trade. Right here, you've got backside there, it's tested. Backside there is tested. You don't have any backsides here. Could have been a 4-hour right here. I don't really think this is important finding the move right now, but okay, let's do it. 4-hour level here. That's laddered and tested. This is never tested right here. reverse level 4, a little higher is the actual 4, which also gives you kind of your clarity right there. So that's tested, right? Backside is tested. Next ladder point, never tested, creates reverse. And also this isn't tested either. So you do have 2 untested 4-hour levels there. You just can go forward, and that's most likely going to be what it is. And there it is. You got your 4-hour levels tested, loses a level, gains it, et cetera, et cetera. Again, not important for what we're doing right now, but just fine to find it. So the controller of the move, again, being the weekly in this move, since we're here right now, you're just going to look at this part of the move. This is going to be your control of the move, highest time frame down. So we can delete this, we can delete this, we can delete this, we can delete this, we can delete this. We can keep this daily. No, that was from before. That was no need to keep that one. No need to keep this. No need to keep this. Weekly right here, need to keep that. Daily right there. Debatable which one it hits. Not debatable at all, actually. The daily triggers the 4-hour, so that's fine. But then now you're in a mirroring situation, right? Because this is the controller of the move, because you've got weekly to weekly information, and when the daily gets hit, now you have 4 hours. So this allows you to see which time frame to target whenever we're talking about controllers. So we know that the daily must stop us in this trade, because that's a +1 -1 to this weekly. Your daily is right here. The daily hits, right? You also have the weekly right there. I'm more concerned about seeing the weekly get hit here, because the higher time frame will always supersede this. So you do have what could be a weekly origin, which means you could see it that we go back and touch this a bunch of times, and you might get into a scenario now where you've got a weekly trend like this. You might go up to this weekly trend. This is going to be a game of trends now. You know, you've got your daily here, but you've also got this weekly like this right here now. So you are going to have this, you know, game of trends right now that is going to happen. Just make this weekly, take the thickness down. So you do have varying degrees of trends here that are happening. Like this trend you can see exists from back down here. You know, you have your like legacy, global, local, or you can even just call this the local, and then you might still make the global off of, you know, I just grabbed the wrong reach point here, the base point of this one. You know, it may go down and create a trend here, and this may end up being legacy, global, and then you might make a local trend up higher. Not like, fine, sure, it might happen in the future, not really important for today, but that's fine. The whole idea is that the controller is the weekly, so the +1 -1 is what's going to stop it. So whenever you have a week, like whenever, if this was a daily, if this was red, you'd be targeting the 4-hour, right? If this was, this would have to be yellow to justify this, right? Like it would have to be like this. That it would be the same thing. Daily level, target the 4. This was not a unique scenario where you have an origin level like this. It is the mirror. So we do use a trend now. So what this tells us by hitting this is that we are in a mirroring situation. We will use the trend. So we are going to use this trend to see if we're going to keep moving down or not. So this trend will be critical for us. This will be like ground zero for trends. This is going to be everything we need to know what we need to break on this top side, because for right now, we're in a mirror between this weekly and this weekly. And then what is likely going to happen is you're going to go up here. You might even deep dive to this like this right here or something. I'm not sure. We have to see how much weeks. You might just go straight up like this throughout the week, create a hold level, respect trend, move down, create this as an origin, rebounds, and see if you can break this. That's the whole point of the mirror, is that I don't want to say it's the whole point of the mirror, but it's a very critical piece, is that you will have this trend. So this is the controller of the move. And this is how you identify them. Whatever your highest time frame is, you're always going to go -1 to see where that can hold, or you're going to create a mirror, which you have right here. You've actually done both. You've targeted the -1 while creating the mirror as well, but that's fine. Higher time takes precedence. The only thing this will control is the local piece of this move, which we'll talk about next. But for now, we have weekly to weekly. It's now going to be a game of trends. You can expect to kind of stay in this little triangle here for the next little while, because we simply need to make a trend on the bottom side, or we need to use this trend here to here, right? We need to use this trend as our bottom side trend, which is also very, very pliable to happen as well. If we don't make this trend because we kind of do something like this and go back here like this will be the trend we use. But we do have trends on the chart now. And I almost even want to go as far as just deleting this now, because I think we're well underneath that. I don't think it's even going to be used anymore. So we can delete that trend, which was an older trend. We don't need it. We did target the weekly. We did target the daily off that. And that's a control of the move. Highest time frame down, which shows you what to target. So that gives you your daily entry here. You could have had this, could have stopped the move as well, right? Like you could have had this stop the move right here. Let's just go red here. Or you could have had even this one stop the move here. Like you could have had backside, combo to front side. Like you had all these levels that could have stopped it. But when we hit this weekly, now we entered a mirroring situation to see if this move can kind of reverse direction. Because that's the other thing that your mirror is going to create, is it will reverse direction, because you're saying like this +1 -1 would have taken precedence if it happened here, and you would have likely continued your ladder up off of one of these 3 levels here, because you're just +1 minusing this time frame to support the move up, +1 -1 move up and keep breaking. But now we've done something very different, which is we have gone on the weekly and we've created that mirroring situation now. You know, over here, the same thing kind of happened, right? You have your origin level, right? You move down against it, you opened up your targets here, and you move to your next weekly up top, right? So it's the same exact thing. And now with that said, now we know we need to see the 4-hour levels stabilize. So on this chart, when you're looking for your next target, so that's the controller of the move. And that controller is going to give you your perfect entries. Like you can sit here and say, our 4-hour is what needs to hold now, right? So now you can start working architecture into your 4-hour levels. As this thing bounced off that daily, the first thing you need to do is find a 4-hour level to see this thing stabilize, which is going to take time. So if what we're saying is true, that we need to actually hit this level, or that we've hit this level, and now we need to create a 4-hour level, like let's start finding that trail of where that 4-hour exists. And because if +1 -1, if true equals yes, then that means this is going to take time to create 4-hour levels. It's going to take a lot of time of just kind of lingering here to see. So there's your first 4-hour level, fails to gain, right? It tried. Here's your next one, right? Okay, try to gain this level. Bounces off some whatever on the back here. What's next here? Oh, okay, well, this one would be next. Try to gain that. Still not there. This one would be next. Like you need that time, and you can see where that raw time is giving you. I'm sure you have like little interior trends here, maybe a 15-minute trend or a 5-minute trend. I'm sure there's some trend from here to here, which is fine. You're going to break that trend and hopefully create a 4-hour off of it. Right now we're here, right? We're trying to break that trend, local trend. We're trying to create a 4-hour. Okay, we're here right now. Do we close above it? We do. And we actually create that 4-hour level. So now we at least have some architecture to work off of 4-hour level, right? So your entry would be there. Break above this would be another pretty important part, because that's the backside of the move, right? So you're going to get stuck between these 2 levels, probably hitting like an hourly here or some type of 15-minute level, right? You're going to go down in time frames, and there's your hourly, right? So you're just going +1 -1, right? Here's your hourly. So all of these, by the way, are entries for target, because if you know, going back to the 4-hour, if you know that we need the 4-hour to hold to create the move, if we've created a 4-hour hold, you know that there's going to be a 4-hour to break on the top, origin or something, or at least this has to, one of 2 things, right? You either come down, test this for the rebuy and move up because you've broken some kind of trend, or you have exactly this, an origin level that will create polarity backside, so that when you do get over it, you can use that as your buy to move up and out of whatever this was, or, you know, whatever this is, wherever that trend starts from, and wherever that trend cycles to. And if this might be a 15-minute origin level, the final one before you move up, blah, blah, blah. But then you can work your architecture down off of that. You have a 4-hour here, you have a 4-hour here. Once this gets hit, right? Like once your 4-hour on the top gets hit. So if we take our replayer tool and just say right here, like, oh, 4 hours hit, let's go down in time frame. Okay, short the 1 hour. Go short this. Right there, perfect. Right? Like, I don't know, it's like a few dollars away, 97 versus 200, like $3. That's fine. If you miss the trade over $3, that's, you know, I don't want to say it, but like, okay, that's on you. Right. And then as you move down in the trade, you know, your 15-minute would be you could either use this as a stop loss. So let's talk about managing the trade for a second. You could either use this as a stop loss because you believe this thing is moving down. So you could stop trigger here, or you could go deep dive stop trigger here. You have to use that as kind of personal preference at that point. Is there any hourly that you would also combo break up here? No, I was looking for maybe like an hourly origin that could have been created up here. So maybe you could spike up and pull it back, but then this is allowing you to control your trade, right? So we just kind of move forward here. I mean, the 15-minute is hit, whether you use body or wick, it's hit. I would typically like to see body used here. And the same thing goes for the bottom side. Like, you have the 4 hour, you know, you need to start thinking about the 1 hour. Looks like this would be a good rebuy here. Looks like this was possibly a 1 hour origin. as well could deep dive you could hit the backside. I would more tend to go and see where this 4 hour exists. Okay, so this 4 hours getting hit no matter what. So I would typically go for the deeper level here. I would typically go for 947 here and start at least seeing like, okay, this is where we have to decide what our target's going to do. If we want to say this thing is going to mirror because we think it has time going back and forth, we want to take our exit on the mirror target to the interior, right? Like this is mirror interior. You've got 4 hour holds here versus 4 hour breaks here. If you've got an hour here, then just Pandora's box it to here. And that should be a pretty clear trade. Oops. Oh, shoot. I just killed the replay. I just went straight up. Damn it. Hold on. I hit the wrong button. I hit the fast forward all the way button, not the go through the trade one at a time button. And so like this really should be your indication of, you know, what to do in this trade. Like targets everything. There's your 15-minute it's holding. There's your hourly. It's still perfect. And then there's your target hit perfectly because you're just mirroring hourly to hourly. Like it's very straightforward. Your interior mirroring, and you could use this as a stop to get out of the trade. I mean, at that point, I think you would have been a little foolish. So let's talk about that. Let's go back to this moment here where you're saying like, okay, well, we can enter this 15. That's fine. So let's see the entry on the 15 so we can manage trade better. That's fine. It still hits the wick. Again, if you're a few dollars away, this is personal preference. You've got your interior trend here. If this continues to hold, which is a 15-minute trend against a 15-minute hold level, like you are mirroring 15s to 15s here. Like you're literally mirroring 15 to 15 here. So like when you start to break over this 15 or whatever 5 might have been there, because there could have been a 5 here, like the next thing you would have done is you would have said like 5-minute here. You've got, yeah, here is the best. You do have like a little origin 5-minute here. So they're so close. I don't know what I would use. So you could have stopped out on this 5. So like when you hard close it, you get out there and then your trade would have been from here to here, and you can re-enter the hourly if you want, or you can play the 4 hour if you think it's breaking. But really all you're doing is you're taking these +1, -1s and you're adding that mirror to it to see which side is going to break, right? And you just continue here and, you know, re-entry on the hourly. It's pretty perfect. You get that re-entry hourly. You know, you can start to do the same thing and shift this 15 right to here, get your re-entry on the 15, and then it just bleeds right through to our target. And it just, oh, it's actually just skyrocketed way up. So, but your next trade now, come on. Yeah, it's a 66%. This one is 96%. Like they're pretty good trades. They're actually really good trades. You know, if we take our replayer tool off, that leaves us live, and then we can just kind of take this stuff away. Go to the hourly, see where our hourly information is, or actually maybe we do the 4 hour first. No, you know, at least we have a 4 hour trend now. So like our 4 hour level is hit, which gave us our 4 hour trend. So like at least we have a trend to go off this side now. So now you're kind of in this scenario where it's 4 hour level against 4 hour level, and you're starting that cycle over again. You hit the hourly, created your 4 hour level, but this is normal. This is what we usually do. We usually find the level that can create the trend, and then you coincide that creates trend. We don't really have any trends up top here. You could have an interior right here. I would less likely use this, and instead I would use this 4 hour level, because this would have been fine to a point, but this is such a sharp trend that you know, now that we're here, you can go after that 4 hour level, and it's the same thing. So like right now we're in the case and point of, we can delete that, we can delete this. We're just in the case and point between 4 hour level to 4 hour level. We're literally mirroring between 2 4 hour levels right now. But this has been the whole premise of this entire trade, because it was back-ended off of this down here. So one of these sides has to break, right? One of these sides has to break to say, like in this daily here, do we have to start targeting higher time frames up? Do we now need to go to see if we can come up here to gain this daily, right? Because this would be the next kind of level to gain, would be the daily, which would be what you needed to gain off the higher time frame anyway. So like if you started to gain this now, come on. If you started to gain this now, all you'd be doing is working +1, -1, the exact same thing we did, but you'd be doing it from the weekly level, because that's now more of a global trade, because those local pieces, like they're tied like this. Red here, this red is tied to this local. This purple is tied to more of like the global piece. Like if you're +1, -1ing off of this, you need to create the daily. Before you can create a daily, you're going to have to create a 4. And in our case, it happens that the 4 actually has the local support too as well. So this should really help people understand local targets and global targets in the controller, because the controller of the move is what is going to define all of this. Highest time frame down will give you your points of entry and exit, and you can see how we built it. We hit the daily, We started marking the 4-hour levels right here. We marked this one. We found the hourly off that. It's been hitting perfectly. It's giving you laser perfect, oopsies, laser straight, absolutely perfect trades, like 1-2 good trades. Like you can just take trade after trade after trade and build off the 15. And if you see the 15 holding, the more that these time frames start to hold down, like 15 holds on this side, 15 can't hold on this side, because now, you know, you maybe you have like something like this on the 15 is what we first saw it as. You're going to have to go and do your work on these trends. Like you know, you kind of have to walk through this whole thing at 15 and, you know, find which level was hit perfectly. So, you know, it was this level here, which means that there is no 1 hour trend here. So there's no 1 hour trend to create. So we actually don't have a 1 hour trend. I'm not even going to create one because we don't have one. This is gone. You have your hourly level here, which could ladder the move, which it is doing right now. So this is an hourly ladder. This is your 15 right here. This was also hit right here. So your 15 has already been hit. You could indeed, so like that's hit there. That's hit there. That's not a reverse scenario. There's no trend to create, so it can't be a reverse. You could go here. You could still hit this 15. I think that would be a little surprising, but you could definitely still hit it. But more so, it's the battle of the 4 hours now, which backbones off of the daily. And so now you're looking for hourly information on both sides. Like, where's your hourly levels? This one was hit already, and that was your perfect entry that created the trend. So you already got your hourly entry right there perfectly. So you got your hourly entry, so that's gone on the top side. This is still holding the move down. We do have an hourly here, but you see how it's kind of, doesn't surprise me that it's this kind of candle. I can't remember what these are called, like doji candles or whatever they're called. I don't know. Don't really do candle names, but you can see why you would hit this level and instantly bounce right to here, because you're literally like this. You're literally saying hourly to hourly. This move is completely undecided, and you're working against 2 4-hour levels. And this tells you that if price flatlines, you lose the bottom of this move. This bottom, this trend, you'll lose it. You have to move up. So the next part of that is you have to start creating floats. You have to next at least break over one of these wicks to create a float off of this, so you don't lose this trend, because that's where now the next part of this drop comes in. The controller shows you what timeframes to target. The timeframes will tell you what's happening and give you the architecture. Now you have to start using your other tools, such as like floating levels, reverse levels. We know we have a 4-hour here and a 4-hour here battling against each other, which is predisposed off the local controller from the global mirror, right? So far, a lot of big fancy words, but it should be pretty straightforward. And now we have 2 4-hour levels working against each other. If we just flatline and stay here, obviously we're losing this 4-hour level. Maybe we can go, there's no origins here. Maybe we can go and hit this. And then maybe, just maybe, there's an origin creation here and we can target that. So your target might want to be something like this off the hourly. Deep dive this to something in here so that you create this as an origin while regaining the 4. So then looking at this, knowing that I need that 4, this is an untested 15. It's a little deeper than the hourly. This looks like a perfect target. This looks like a perfect target because it suffices all parts of this move. Oops, I need that. I was trying to delete this guy here. Delete that, delete that. When we look at this from a more macro standpoint, you have the 4-hour here and you have a 4-hour here. So this can hold by targeting the hourly level for the origin. It's the first time it's targeting this break level as an origin on the hourly to create it, which means we're going to go a little further past it. So 42 looks good here. If you wanted to get a bit greedier, the next step in this thing I would take is I would say, okay, what's the measurement here? 6%? No, it's not worth it. Either take this trade or take that trade. It's not worth trying to get 6% more when you could use the same theory to go after 13% more. And there's nothing back here that can backbone that. So 13% is good. This can be an origin for the future. It will deep dive. If I was going to take this, I would just take this. What's the point? 6% to possibly miss the move. 13%, okay, at least you're getting something out of it. If you're going to take that risk, you take your trade either there or there. The in-between doesn't make sense. I think it's not worth maybe missing an origin creation over that. And I wouldn't buy the 4-hour here either because I know we can target the level below it because all we have to do is hard close above this, right? So I know we can target this just like I know like if there was no 4-hour level here, I wouldn't be looking at this stuff down here. Like if we didn't have this 4-hour level, I would say we need to hard close above this. So maybe I need to start targeting like 15-minute levels in here and hourly levels like, okay, like right here, that doesn't really look worth it. This looks like a good level. 19% versus 6%. I would just take this or this. But because we have this as a 4-hour level, now we're just doing that one chain down. And so the only trade I would take is here. And if it doesn't hit there, I would see this 4-hour create, and then I would use the hourly as a rebuy, which is very straightforward. So like now you've got kind of like this full circle plan where for targets based on the controllers of the move, which should really give you all of your targets for entry, not exit. Of course, this is like entry targets. And then your exit targets have to have that same architecture built, right? You have to say 4-hour here. What's stopping it in terms of the 1 hour? How deep can it go? Just like we kind of did here. And I said, well, okay, we can go here to this 15. Like we could target this. So this would be a good exit target. If this gets hit and pulls the move back, clearly we're holding something bigger. So if we were to go here, say there's a 4 here, there's no other 4s that can create. You've got this 4 here. That's quite a ways away, it looks like. Let's just measure. This is about 40% away, but let's measure it. 35%. 35% away. Where's the hourly? Okay, so I actually have an hourly here. No origins here. This hourly is hit pretty perfectly. No origins back here. So really now I'm looking at this as target. This is already hit. So now we need to open to the 15. So that 15 is there. Do we have any origins back here? Right here. Perfect. So this would be my target. And if this gets hit and holds the move, it dumps, right? Like that's pretty, you're not targeting the 4. So the scenario would be like this. Go down to here, take this buy, exit short here, let it move down, right? Something like that. That would be your extreme scenario. So that's how I would start to look at targets on the top. Like if you're already breaking this stuff, although this 4 hour is technically holding, you now, if this 4 hour holds, you need to create floats. So you need to get like above this or above this. So that's the first thing I said is I want to create a float. You have to have a plan to say like, if I'm targeting this level, what do I want to see happen in the trade? Now you have to start using some of your other architecture to see, or some of your other theories to see where this move can go. Let's just delete these kind of things. So like at first I would say, oh, we're creating floating levels. Look, you've got this right here. You've got this right here. So if we stop here, c'est la vie, bye-bye. It's just a trend and it's just going to crush this thing. If we kind of go above this and target that 4 hour again, now we can say like, oh, well, it broke this. Where's the floating level down here? Which floating level did it create? You should exit here, re-enter here. And if this holds, if this is an hourly, you play the 15, right? Oh, you can play the hourly, but if you have like, let's just do this. If this is the one, oh boy, I could use a text tool. Yeah, maybe I will for this one. If this is the 1 hour here, right? You're going to enter this trade here, and then you're going to use this right here as the 15-minute. And if this holds, you stay in your trade, right? So you've entered here. This has created the float. This has supported the move as the float, the 1 hour right here, right? Like let's put it right there. That's where you enter because it created the float off of the 4. So now you know the 1 hour has to hold. So you enter the 1 hour, you use the 15 to guide your trade. If you can't hold that 15, this is going to collapse. The move's going to die. If you can't hold that 15, this stuff is broken up here because your float isn't now in succession. So that's a really good big overview of how controllers should affect everything you do with your charts. When you're marking these trades, when you're finding entries, when you're looking at exit targets, everything you do, and it's all very logically set from the very first piece, which is the controller of the trade.